Well, thank you guys for being here with me today, and I really appreciate you taking the time out to come, and I hope you've been liking the apple cider and the popcorn that my husband prepared. Thank you. So, as most of you know, I love to read, and there's just something about books and bookstores that I love being around. And I think one of the reasons why that is because there's just something I really want to know. And there's something I've been searching for all my life, and I think that's one of the reasons why I love to read. But sometimes I can't really pinpoint what it is that I really want to know. And so I've kind of been asking people and just saying, hey, is there something you really want to know, or what is it that you're searching for? And I have found that a common response is that people want to know what they're supposed to be doing in this life and what God wants from them. And I can just really relate to that. I've always thought I have this one life to live and I really want to do it right. So these questions, particularly, I remember a time when I was really asking them. It was my freshman year of college, and I went on this 3-week wilderness trip. And it was meant to be a time to get to know God more and get to know some other freshmen. And it was pretty strenuous. It was 3 weeks out in the wilderness, a tarp over our head at night, and then powdered food that we'd cook over a fire. And it was an experience that I'll never forget. But throughout the course of that time, most of the people in my group, actually all of them, cried at least 3 times. And except for me. I was the only one that didn't cry because I was thinking I have to be strong, and I just have to be tough and kind of tough it out, and that's kind of what I was supposed to do. And so one night I was out collecting firewood, and it had been raining just 3 days straight, so my clothes were just soaked through and I was freezing, which I'm normally cold, but I was particularly cold. I was just chilled to the bones. And I was out collecting firewood, and I was just praying, and I was asking God, what do you want from me? What can I do for you? How can I serve you? And there's just, these questions were kind of running through my head. And we'll come back to that story and kind of what I heard him saying back to me. But those questions have led me to John chapter 13, which is the passage that we'll be talking about today. It's John 13, looking at verses 2 through 5. It reads, "The evening meal was in progress, and the devil had already prompted Judas, the son of Simon Iscariot, to betray Jesus. Jesus knew that the Father had put all things under his power, and that he had come from God and was returning to God. So he got up from the meal, took off his outer clothing, and wrapped a towel around his waist. After that, he poured water into a basin and began to wash his disciples' feet, drying them with a towel that was wrapped around him." Now, often when I read this verse, what stands out to me was that Jesus got up and he served. He got down and was washing sinners' feet. And a lot of times that's what's kind of stressed, is service. But what I find particularly interesting is what happened prior to Jesus serving, which I think a lot of times we overlook. We think that it goes straight to what we are supposed to do and what Jesus did, but there's something prior to that. If we take a look at the verse right before he got up to serve, it says, "Jesus knew that the Father had put all things under his power, and that he had come from God and was returning to God." So there's something about this knowledge that God had given him all things, put them all under his power, that he came from him and was going to him, that allowed him to then get up and to serve. And this knowledge was that he was deeply and completely loved. He knew who he was. He had an identity. He was a son. So in just looking at what a son means, of being a son, that led me to the story of the prodigal son in Luke 15. So, take a look at that. Now, as most of you know, the prodigal son story is about the younger son who goes off. The father has two sons, and the younger one goes off and he wastes his inheritance. And realizing it, he runs back to his father and he says, I'm no longer worthy to be a son, so I'll be a slave. And his father immediately says, no, like, you're my son, and he puts a ring on him and a robe and throws a party. Well, when the older son hears this, he's mad, he's angry. He doesn't understand because he doesn't understand why his father would be doing this for his younger brother. We take a look at his response, and he says, all these years I've been slaving for you and never disobeyed your orders. Yet you never gave me even a young goat so I could celebrate with my friends. But when this son of yours, who has squandered your property with prostitutes, comes home, you kill the fattened calf for him. So this son, he doesn't know he's a son. He uses the term slaving away. And that's how he's been living his life. He's been living a slave in his father's house. And he doesn't really know how much he's loved. But he's just been doing. And he doesn't know how much he's loved in his father, who his father is. So this is his father's response, which we see that the father always does this. He says, my son. So first he's instilling that identity back into him and saying, you aren't a slave, you are a son. Saying, you are always with me and everything I have is yours. So this is huge for what it means to be a son, what it means to be a child of God, is that our Father is always with us, and he gives us everything that he has. It says that we are blessed in the heavenly places with every spiritual blessing. And that's just what our Father does for us. And Jesus knew this. We look back at John 13, and Jesus knew that the Father had put all things under his power. He knew his identity. He knew his sonship. And this allowed him then to get up and to take off his outer clothing and to bend down and to wash their feet. So how does this apply to us? Well, we go back and look at those questions of what does he want from us? And when I was asking those questions back so many years when I was collecting the firewood, while I was asking those questions to God, it was almost like he was echoing them right back to me. And I was saying, hey, what can I do to serve you? And it was like he was asking it right back to me. How can I serve you? And even saying that now, I'm like, is that blasphemous? It's just like, you're God, I'm man. That my role is to serve you. My role is to do things for you, and not the other way around. And so that's taking me on a journey, and this journey is that he has come to serve. And how that applies to us, how that applies to you, is that before we ever serve, we have to know that he bends down and he washes our feet, and that we are a son, and to know that he loves us, and because we can't give away anything that we haven't first received. And so I was just asking that question, God, what do you want? What do you want from us? And I really believe that what he wants is just for us to know that he loves us. And that, just like on that day when he said, you are my daughter. It's just that we are his sons and daughters. And to let him love us and to let him wash our feet. Which, how does that feel, when somebody comes and takes off your shoes and takes off your socks? There's a vulnerability there. And automatically we want to say, wait, and get up. But he just says just to sit and to receive that. And so I guess as we go away, just to know that you're deeply loved and that he does bend down to wash you and just to receive that. It's His just desire for us. That's the end.